justice, got to have justice. We want justice, got to have justice.
I want to bring forth a very powerful leader. He's a leader of the New African People's Party. He's a leader in the Malcolm X grassroots movement, also the People's Assembly. And he's going to be the people's mayor down there in Mississippi, and they're going to set the example of the pace for all. So let's bring forward free land. Everybody say free land.
Very important that the kind of spirit which is exemplified in our songs and our work is carried on to the youth, right? I want the youth to come in here and hear this and then turn it until their own songs and just take the place down and turn the place out, right? This is just a celebration of struggle, but every celebration of struggle has to be talking about the next step forward, right? So we have to understand what the next step forward is. We have to understand that we're in a world where we are still in danger. There is no such thing as being almost free, right? You can't be kind of free. A little bit freer than you were free before, right? You're going to get to be free someday, freedom, right? Freedom is either freedom or it's no freedom at all, right? Folks say down in Mississippi, some of them, that I'm too radical, right? And I remind them that Fannie Lou Hamer was radical, right? I remind them that Medgar Evers was radical, right? And that Martin Luther King was radical, right? So being radical, we have to understand that one of the things that happens is that whenever you're for change, that causes controversy. And when you get involved in controversy, then that's what they call radical, right? So we don't step back from controversy. We don't step back from change. This is our time. This is a very important time. The Black Workers for Justice symbolizes the struggle which now is taking place in the South. We have, as African people in America, been oppressed for a very long time. We have been oppressed, as have our Native brothers and sisters, as have our Maycano brothers and sisters, as have our Puerto Rican brothers and sisters, as have poor whites for a long period of time, right? We've been oppressed because we live in a situation where the power is not right. We need an adjustment. You know, when sometimes you go to the doctor and they say you need an adjustment, we need an adjustment. That's what we need. And we need an adjustment not only in one place in the world, we need an adjustment all over the world, right? Because the world power is not right. We got to straighten out the power. And wherever we see that things are happening to us all over the country and all over the world, in Africa we see drones going around bombing our people. And we see the same chocolate fella that we put into the White House in charge of those drones which are going around bombing our people, right? Then we know that something's out of order there, that there's a problem there, right? We know that it's important that we look at Detroit, where they just had the fiscal manager, they call him, take over, right? And this was an important defeat for our movement because Detroit represented a victory for workers. That's what Detroit represented. Detroit represented a victory for people fighting for self-determination. That's what it represented. Because in Detroit, we had some of the strongest unions that we've ever had. In Detroit, we had some of the strongest results of the fight for self-determination. The city council was all black, right? The mayor was black. The judges, 30 of them, 25 of them once were black. And 2 of them were white fellas who said that they were communists and they supported what black folks were doing, right? And so this was too much for the system to take. This was just too much for the system to bear. And so in so many ways, they began to take over the court. And then they began to take over the school system. And then even though the state of Mississippi, state of Michigan, you see I get confused. Sometimes Michigan and Mississippi do the same thing. Even though the state of Michigan owes Detroit millions, if not billions of dollars that they haven't paid. They're now taking over Detroit because they say Detroit can't pay its bills, right? And so we have to understand that the struggle which was waged there so brilliantly and all over the country so brilliantly by workers is a struggle which is now being focused even more so where we are, right here in the South. Because the economy is moving south. The center stage for struggle, as we predicted for a long time, is moving right here to the south, to the Black Belt. Right here where you are. You're on center stage now, brothers and sisters. You're on center stage. Because this struggle is moving here. The economy is moving here. Businesses are moving here. And at the same time that they move here, they're fighting against labor. They're fighting against the organization of labor. In fact, they're coming here in order to get away from labor. That's why they're coming here to start off with. And at the same time, we understand what Martin Luther King came to understand when he gave some of his final speeches. Martin Luther King said that, according to Harry Belafonte, while before he was killed, he said that, well, Harry, we're going to win this integrationist struggle, this struggle against Jim Crow, against American apartheid. But I'm beginning to wonder if we're not integrating into a burning house. That's what he said, right? He said, because I'm beginning to question, because he began to understand the relationship of labor to the system and how the system was abusing labor and how it was abusing working people. How they could make billions of dollars off the backs of people and then leave those people impoverished and put down like dogs, right? And he began to wonder if it was worth an integration into a house that looked like that, right? Because see, ultimately, brothers and sisters, ultimately, it is ultimately a question not just of colors, it's a question of ideas. That's what it is. It's a question of who has the best idea and who has the worst ideas. And what the worst ideas are is that you can oppress people regardless of who they are. And that you can dog people out regardless of who they are, right? We stand for African people in the South because we have been the brunt of oppression and at the bottom level of oppression for so long. But at the same time, we understand that our way up is everybody's way up. That's what it is, right? Our way up is everybody's way up. We're going to change the whole order of the world. That's what we're going to do, right? And we're going to do it by fighting for our workers' rights. And that's what King understood. And so this is why this day is so beautiful. It poses or it poises itself as an understanding and a recognition by King that just holding hands with people and walking across fields was not enough to get the job done, right? That it wasn't, you couldn't even get to that point until you got somewhere else, right? That we can't come together on a social level if we can't get together in a level of sharing goods and resources and power. If people can't eat right, if they can't be fed right, if they can't have the right kind of job, if they can't feed their kids, then it's senseless to talking about walking across Georgia fields together, right? And so King began to understand that. And so what he said, that his dream had become a nightmare. That's what he said, right? And so what we are faced with now is not so much a dream, but a nightmare. We're faced with communities all over where they manipulate our communities and they turn us into nomads and they put us into a position of gentrification. I believe there's some gentrification going on in this city right now, am I not right? And what we do is we bounce people from place to place. Rather than trying to give people jobs and change the overall conditions of the society, where income can come into the society and we can lift everybody up by lifting the bottom up. Rather than to do that, what we do is we readjust people, we reassemble people, we displace people, we dislocate people. We chase people out of one spot and put them in another spot, and then we come to the spot that we chased them from, and we start bragging about how much progress has been done. When at the same time, you haven't done anything except cosmetic adjustments by shifting poor people from one location to the next. Right? victory in the civil rights movement is not necessarily a victory in the human rights movement, right? And what we have to do, and this is our responsibility, it's not Obama's responsibility. Obama can't do the job. He's not qualified to do the job, right? You're qualified to do the job. And if you listen to him, actually, in his voice, he's telling you that. He says, change doesn't come from the top down. He says, change comes from the bottom up. That's what he says, right? We're right here on the bottom, right at the bottom of the pile, right? And so we got to bring about the change. And that's that human right change. And so how do we do it? How do we engage it? We need to change the power equations which exist in the South. That's what we need to do. We need to change the power equations which exist in the South. We need to take over governments and territories where people power can be exercised. And that's why we talk about what we call the People's Assembly. Because we talk about a notion where people become the power. We say the people must decide, educate, motivate, organize. And so you say the people must decide. Educate, that means you have to spread information so the people become capable of making good decisions because they'll have the information they need. That means in little bitty meetings and big meetings and large meetings, the people must decide. We must emphasize that. And the people deciding is an experience that we all must begin to grow in and share ourselves. Because in places where the people have never decided, the people aren't used to deciding, right? And so even getting the people to show up at the meetings to decide becomes a difficult task. But you can't give up because the task is difficult. All you do when the task is difficult, you get to work. That's what you do. You get down. And so we have to educate. We have to motivate. And we help motivate with that culture. The people's culture is the spirit of the revolution. That's what it is. And so we see Fruit of Labor get up here. We're looking at some of the spirit of the revolution. That's what we're doing. And so we got to talk to the people in various different ways. And then we have to organize. We have to organize every plant. We have to organize every neighborhood. We have to organize on every corner. We got to be organized wherever we are. And yes, we even have to organize in the city of Jackson right there at the mayor's house. That's what we got to do, right? And so that's why I'm running for mayor of the city of Jackson. People have wondered about that. Well, you know, Chokwe running for mayor, right? And you know, I had to worry about it myself for a while. But the reality is that we have to understand that there's contested space in the struggle for freedom. When you sit in Jackson, Mississippi, where 80% of the population is black, they asked me, Chokwe, how did you win city council in Jackson? You know, the first time I ran for anything was in 2009. And we won the city council election. And I say we, because it wasn't just me. We won it. We won it with the good work that we've done throughout the year. That's who won the city council election. And we won it on May 19th of 2009. All right? We won it on May 19th. Malcolm X Day, that's what we won, right? And that's something talking to you, right? And so we won it. But we won it and we contested for it. And it was important because it was a space that needed to be taken. It was an area of work that needed to be taken. And people ask me why we won it. Well, I say I live in a ward that's 25,000 people, and all of them except 700 of them are black, right? Okay. So that kind of gave us a basis in order to win the election. Because what we were doing was dealing with the folks who had historically been oppressed the most and fighting against forces who had been oppressing us the most. And so now we're moving into another arena. We're moving into the mayoral arena. And we're not just looking at the mayoral arena, we're looking at the whole western side of Mississippi. Because if you start up in Tunica, which is at the north of Mississippi on the west side, and you go down 18 counties, you'll hit dead southwest Mississippi in Wilkinson County. 18 counties, 17 of them are majority black. Some of them are as much as 80% black. They're contiguous, they touch each other. And the one that is not majority black is Warren County, and is 47% black, right? So that's not where we end our struggle, but it may very well be where we start our struggle, right? But we're not just interested in counties which are majority black. We want to change the nature of every county in Mississippi and every spot on the globe. That's what we want to do, all right? And so when they tell you that we like the Klan, we're trying to get some kind of, that's the thing, they start making you feel guilty when you're trying to do something right? Okay, so folks call us, you're separatists. You're separatists. Separating, well, no, we would like to separate from everything that's bad. And we'd like to take everybody with us. We'd like to take everybody who is good and wants to be good with us. They need to separate from everything that's bad. But we're not trying to separate people. We don't separate people. They've already separated people, right? And what we have to understand is that there's a formula for getting power for people, which requires us to take advantages of the area where we have the most strength. So in that 18-county area of Mississippi, and right here in the state of North Carolina, in what we call the Black Belt, and various other places, we have to strengthen our people. Our people actually, in many respects, have not been waiting for us. They've been moving ahead on their own. They've been electing black sheriffs and black supervisors and black mayors and black council people and things of that nature. But the problem is that sometimes those elections is without political knowledge and without political discipline. So it's not just enough to elect a black sheriff now. It's not just enough to elect a black mayor now. It's not just enough to have a chocolate-colored fella in a particular position. This is insufficient now, right? This might represent some level of success at some point in our struggle. But at this point in our struggle, we're far beyond that, right? We got to have quality. We got to have change. We got to have people that know what they're doing. We got to stop finding our ways to find people and put them in office and find out that we put the people in office who wasn't in the struggle. We sometimes put the people in office who were against the struggle, right? And then when they get in office, we start talking about, well, they betrayed us. No, they didn't betray you. They were like that all the time, right? You should have known better, right? So what it means is you have to have systems of training. The people's assemblies become systems of training, systems of generating and creating people. And we create people on the notion of service, not on the notion of just leadership. Like one brave brother told me a long time ago, one of our elders, Papa Wells, he said, brother, if you can't follow, you ain't fit to lead, right? That's what he said. He said, if you ain't followed, then you ain't fit to lead. And so that's the message we got to tell our children. You got to serve first. You got to serve. And on the basis of service, then you become somebody who can step in line in order to take over and participate in the leadership. We have to tell our children that it's not about name recognition. It's not about ego. It's not about ambition. It's about the ambition or the desires and the objectives of the entire movement and entire people, not against individuals. But what is important for us to understand is that this is special. And we got to look for special places and special moments. We are the right people. And we're constantly cultivating the right people. We're not only cultivating our people who are right, African people who are right, but we have people of goodwill from various different places coming together who are right. The economy is bringing other people into the South who have not been cultured in the culture of extreme white supremacy, right? So it creates a different dimension, a different even intellectual level and things of that nature. We have the Hispanics coming in, and then we, of course, have people saying that the Mexicans are taking our jobs. And what I tell them, I said, it was your job, the Mexicans couldn't take it, right? Okay. The reality is that the people who control the jobs are neither your friend or the Mexican's friend, right? That's the reality. And so we got to get smart and we got to get together. We got to get a strategy of unity and a strategy of alliances that take down those people who control those jobs and work Mexicans like slaves at the same time that they put us out of jobs, right? So we got to figure that formula out. And that's happening to some degree in Mississippi. And so these people are coming together. And it's in the right place. It's in the South, right? It's where the whole nightmare of enslavement began. It's where, when they kidnapped us from Africa, where the war got started. That's where the war got started. And people ask me what war I'm talking about. I'm talking about the war against African people. That's what I'm talking about. Now, you might not know about the war. You may not be at war, but you're certainly in war. That's for sure, right? You're the victim of a war, right? And if you're not at war, if you're not doing things in order to win that war, then you clearly are going to lose that war, right? And so we have to be conscious of the war which is being waged against our people. Gentrification is a weapon against us. Fighting against unions and crushing us on jobs is a weapon against us. Discrimination. I'm a lawyer. All the people come in, you know, it's insane the number of people that come in talking about they've been discriminated on their job. I've had people come in and talk to me and said, well, I'm surprised that they discriminate against me. And I'm sitting there trying to be cool, you know, I'm thinking to myself, where you been? but you got, you know, like a doctor with a good bedside manner, you know what I'm saying? So you listen to what's happening. But then they'll tell me and say, well, look, you know, I used to, the boss was, I thought, my best friend. I was helping get rid of other people that looked like me for the boss, right? And then all of a sudden the boss turned on me, right? So we got to get rid of all those backward kind of ideas, right? And we got to wipe them out. And so there's various weapons against the movement. We must develop our force in order to win this struggle. And so I'm not going to speak any longer, because if I keep speaking, I might say something that might cost me back at the polls at home, all right? Because I'm always itching to say the right thing, right? It's the right time, it's the right people, and we're in the right place. Let's get it done. Thank you very much, and free life.
Tell the people, come on, one more. Free land. Tell the people, Brother Chokwe.
Too often when we talk about black power, we define it as just a number of rallies and demonstrations. We want the power not to just protest, we want the power to change conditions. And that's why we organized the Black Workers for Justice. But we are part not just of a statewide organization or statewide movement, we're part of a Southwide movement, of a national movement, of an international movement. And if we recognize the South as a lightning rod in the past, and we understand how the economy has restructured itself, and we now find, you know, plants and operations that were once in Detroit and these kinds of places now concentrated in the South, then we must organize those workplaces. We're not engaged in a civil rights struggle anymore. You know, we're engaged in a human rights struggle, and fundamental to that human rights struggle is a struggle for power. All of these struggles, you understand, are not raising self-determination. Self-determination is a struggle for power. We want self-determination to exercise human rights. We don't just want, you understand, you know, our oppressive system to give us what they think is human rights. We have to have power to define the rights, to defend the rights, you know, and to continue, you know, to talk about rights from the new problems, you understand, that will emerge because this system has created contradictions, you understand, that we find ourselves learning about as we get older and older and older. So we would like, you know, people to join the Southern Workers Assembly to help us to build a statewide movement and to help to once again talk about the strategic importance of the South, because it has a special importance. And if that importance is not lifted up in all of the progressive programs and movements and expressions that are taking place around the country, then I don't think, you understand, we're positioning ourselves to fight for the kind of radical change that we need to have. So join the Southern Workers Assembly. Thank you.
We all know how difficult the conditions facing our people have been under the economic crisis, with the brunt of unemployment falling on the black community, the incidents of ongoing police brutality, use of excessive force, murders by the police and self-appointed vigilantes, ongoing concerted efforts nationally to undermine black voting strength and to weaken or eliminate the Voting Rights Act, while we see that these right-wing politicians have spent years redistricting themselves into untouchable conservative voting districts and holding both the states, different states, and the national government hostage to their right-wing agendas. The attacks on public sector unions we've seen in the last few years, and the attacks on public goods and services, which have been aimed at increasing corporate profits at the expense of workers and our communities. When we look at the sum total of all of these assaults and we examine them from a national perspective, we believe they constitute no less than a war on Black America. And so we must wage a campaign and fight back. And we're in the process through Black Workers Unity Network, and other organizations are beginning to wage that fight.
Well, I'm just going to give a couple shout outs real quick, some solidarity acknowledgments to other organizations out there doing good work. I want to shout out North Carolina Peace Action, the Southern Anti-Racism Network, Workers' World Party, Edelstein and Payne, the Southern Workers Assembly, the Farm Labor Organizing Committee, North Carolina Public Service Workers Union, the Durham Solidarity Center, the People's Movement Assembly, Triangle Jobs with Justice, the Shotwell Community Improvement, formerly known as the Black Anchor Community Improvement, Hip Hop for Justice, United Electrical Radio and Machine Workers Union, In the Name of Humanity, Coalition Against Racism, Veterans for Peace, People's Organization for Progress, and Solidarity. I'm going to save the rest of my speech for next year, and I'm going to try to go before they serve the food so I can talk to y'all when I'm wide awake. But appreciate y'all coming out, and that's all my time. Thank y'all.
This year's recipients are, and as she calls your name, would you please come forward?
People's Durham. People's Durham is a community group in the city of Durham, North Carolina. They are a mainly African-American class group initiated by activists that includes Ray Urquhart and Sandalo Dayamina. They have done important organizing in Durham around tenant rights and education. Their work has been based in McDougall Terrace, where they have organized residents to fight for improvements and more governance. They organized and led the movement to defend the residents of Lincoln Terrace, who faced a rapid eviction process when the owner claimed bankruptcy. In 2010, they led parents, students, and other community members to fight budget cuts that would have led to the layoff of 187 teachers. They were able to stop this attack by forcing the commissioners to find revenue in other places. Congratulations, you guys.
We at People's Durham would like to accept this award on behalf of the 200 families who banded together to prevent eviction, to try to prevent themselves being homeless and their children being homeless in the middle of a school year. This award really belongs to them. We also would like to accept the award on behalf of the people who are still in the Haiti community, who are facing regentification, being called revitalization, that is facing or possibly uprooting them from their community. So we're here for them. Thank you.
The next recipient for 2013 is Larcene Taylor. Larcene is a Black Workers for Justice member and a dedicated and committed member and officer of UE 150 and the North Carolina Public Service Workers Union. She has been very instrumental in helping to lead the fight for collective bargaining, rights for public workers in North Carolina, and pushing for passage of UE 150's Mental Health Workers Bill of Rights. She has been supportive of the work of Southerners on new ground as they fought against Amendment 1 and connected her church with labor, community, and civil rights activists. Great job.
All right.
Who are we? You win! First of all, I'm very honored to accept this. And I only pray for your prayers that I can continue to be of service to my fellow man. I want to acknowledge a victory that we've had in Charlotte with the Charlotte City Workers. It was a long fought victory, but a victory has been won. I know I'm supposed to keep it under a minute, but I'm really, truly honored. I've met some wonderful folks. I've learned a lot of lessons. I've traveled the world, all because of my involvement with serving my fellow mankind. I can't say how much I appreciate this honor. And like I said, I want your prayers that I continue to do what I've done in the past. Right. Thank you so very much.
The next recipient is Jim Campbell. Jim is a retired educator and a longtime civil rights activist. He worked as a teacher in Baltimore, Maryland, New York, and in Tanzania. And after retiring, he returned home to the South and became a community activist again in Charleston, South Carolina. And he continued his involvement with educational initiatives. Throughout his life, Campbell has worked with organizations focused on socialism, Pan-Africanism, freedom struggles, and equity in education. James served as the National Coordinating Committee of the Committees of Correspondence, and in March 1998, he was one of the endorsers to the call to found a Black National Congress. He was also active in Malcolm X's Organization for African Unity. And James could not be here tonight, but we have someone accepting on his behalf. Come on over. Okay. Thank you for being here.
All right, yes, Brother Campbell asked me to be here tonight in his place. He was not able to travel up from Charleston to accept the award himself, but he is deeply honored. He is overjoyed to receive the award and to stand in solidarity with Black Workers for Justice. Just a couple of words about one of his more recent projects. He has been working with the dock workers in Charleston, doing oral histories with the retirees. So he calls this project Black Labor in the Hold. It's several hours of interviews with the workers there. He was actually one of the founders of the Committees of Correspondence for Democracy and Socialism, along with Angela Davis, Herbert Apteker, Charlene Mitchell, and several others. He's still involved in the movement. His greatest interest now is passing a generations-long struggle along to the next generation.
All right, thank you. And would Sister Ethel Jones please come forward? Sister Ethel is a worker who just retired after 19 years at the Rocky Mount Engine Plant, formerly Consolidated Diesel. She's the Secretary-Treasurer of the Bloomer Community Association and founder and current coordinator of the Bloomer People's Clinic, which has been running for 24 years. This is phenomenal. She's the treasurer of the Carolina Auto, Aerospace, and Machine Workers Union, a unit of UE 150, and of the UE 150 of the North Carolina Public Service Workers Union, which she is also a trustee. And last but not least, she is a very, very, very active member of Black Workers for Justice. And we appreciate the work that you do, sister.
It's not very much that I could say, but I'm very honored to accept this award from Black Workers for Justice. I've been there for so many years, and all I can say is, who are we? You and me! Right!
They have stolen the dreams like they stole the land. Can't go to college and get an education, can't drive or work or be an immigrant in an immigrant nation. Can live in fear that ICE will come, can work in the fields and can pay taxes and please, 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 cleaning up after these capitalists. And don't ask to participate or if there's a citizenship that is owed you, because USA don't like to pay what it owes. 40 acres and a mule still waiting for it to show. Do keep dreaming and keep fighting for the dream. I believe it's not that far away as it seems, because folks like me and Black Workers for Justice are dreaming and fighting besides you and will until we can all feel like citizens too. Free the land! Free the land! All right.
Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. Have no fear of atomic energy. None of them can stop the time. How long can they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Some say that it's just a part of it. We got to fulfill the world. Won't you help to sing?
Y'all join in.
These songs of freedom, 'cause all I ever know, yeah. Redemption songs, do we want them all together? Do you want life the way home? And let the Spirit won't you come by here. We need your presence here. One time and power, make it always clear. And let the Spirit won't you come by here. Peace with justice, Spirit. Peace with justice, Spirit, come by.